Okay, good morning. We're going to talk a little bit about unemployment today. So unemployment itself is an interesting topic. So what you may think about unemployment is it just means you don't have a job. So what unemployment means is if you are unemployed, then you want a job but can't find one. So you want a job, you're in the labor force and can't find one. So if you're unemployed, that means you are part of the civilian labor force. That means you've chosen to try and get a job. If you are trying to get a job and can't, that makes you unemployed. Now there are 4 ways you can be unemployed. We have frictional, which simply means choice. So we got frictional. That means that you left your job or chose not to work, and now you're choosing to work but can't find work. So you're frictionally unemployed. And we have structural unemployment. That simply means that your job skills do not fit the jobs available. So if you're an old factory worker and need to get a job and all that's available is computer and tech, you need to go back to school. So that's structural unemployment. Now, if you add these two together, frictional and structural make up the UN, which is the natural rate of unemployment. So the natural rate of unemployment is equal to frictional plus structural. This means by nature, we're always going to have this in real life. Remember, real life is natural, so the natural rate of unemployment is we're going to have people quit their jobs today, people whose skills will go away. So we will have this type of unemployment. It's going to happen. We'll never have that fictional, 100% employment. It just will not happen. Okay? The other types we have are cyclical. Think like the business cycle. So we have our ups and downs. We have the business cycle. Okay, so if we're on this part of the business cycle where we have some recession, that means extra jobs are gone, or you get laid off because it's not busy at work. So that's cyclical. Seasonal is pretty easy because that's just lifeguards, mall Santas, extra help at Christmas, things like that. So those are our 4 types of unemployment: frictional, structural, cyclical, and seasonal. Okay, so whenever we have people that are employed, that means they are part of the labor force and they want a job and they have one. So they're in the labor force, want and have a job. Okay? If you're not in the labor force, that means you simply don't want a job. So someone who is, say, a stay-at-home mom, which is a full-time job, by the way, a very difficult one, or if they are just choosing to not work, that means they're not in the labor force, so they don't count for anything. Okay? Well, they count for something. I just don't know what. They're just not. If you don't want a job, you are not unemployed. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. Okay? So, whenever we have full employment, this is not zero unemployment because frictional and structural are regarded as unavoidable in the economy. So, if we're at full employment, that means that we're at 96%. That's pretty good, as long as we have the natural rate. So all the time, actual unemployment and natural unemployment will be different. Okay? So now, when you're trying to solve for these rates, the unemployment rate is equal if you take the number of unemployed people. Remember, they're in the labor force but can't find a job. And you take the people in the labor force and you divide that into the people who want a job but don't have one. And that's where you get your 3%, which is really amazing, to 5%. That's good for the economy, around that in real life. Okay? But another way to measure if your economy is doing well is your labor force participation rate. So you take the number in your labor force and divide it by your population, and that gives you, a percent of how many people in your economy actually want a job. So the more people that participate, so if the labor force participation rate increases, that can lead to growth. Because now we have part of our population is going up, as in people who want a job. Okay, so a few of these examples are, you got to figure out if it's what type of unemployment, and then if they're not in the labor force. So a mall Santa, that's going to be seasonal. Stay-at-home mom, that's going to be frictional. Okay, the economy of recession, that is cyclical. Roy Munson dropped out of his program and can't find a job. GED means a high school dropout. Okay, so that's going to be structural because no skills. The human calculator replaced by the TI, that's going to be structural. Napoleon leaves his job, that's frictional because that's by choice. Okay. And then Mr. Malhesh Store graduated from college. So you choose to be in college, not working. So when you're in college and don't have a job, you're actually not in the labor force. Okay? But as soon as you graduate and you have 6 months before your first student loan payment is due, you start looking for a job. That means you were frictionally unemployed during college. You're frictionally unemployed when you're looking. When you're in college, you're not in the labor force. Okay? Lifeguard after Labor Day, that's going to be seasonal for Uncle Rico. Okay? And then someone who likes to sleep on the couch all day and doesn't do anything, they are not in the labor force. Okay? And then Mark Mushroom can't find work in cellular mycology. That is structural. Oh, kind of, because I really did that just for the pun. So, anyways, there's some graphs that we have that are going to have all of these things in it. Oh, and we can't forget a couple little things on the back of this page. Okay? Here's one criticism of the unemployment rate. One criticism is that part-time workers are counted as full employed. So we could be understating with our unemployment rate. Okay? Now, if there's a recession, you're considered a part-time worker and you still have a job. So that understates the unemployment rate. So people who are hourly employees get their hours cut, things like that. Okay? That makes the unemployment rate not completely accurate all the time. So also, it forgets about discouraged workers who are not actively searching for jobs. They give up. Okay? So that really makes the unemployment rate different because now they're not looking for a job. So discouraged workers are a big part of that. Alright. So anytime you see a GDP gap, we'll call it a recessionary gap. That means that we are short of a certain amount of GDP. Right? And we have something called Okune's Law that says for every 1% of actual unemployment rate, then we have a GDP gap of 2%. So this is an interesting theory because say we have unemployment rate of 2%. Okay? That's going to lead to a 4% GDP because now you have people not earning income, then you have them not going out and spending it. So it's a double-edged sword. So if the actual rate is 6% and the natural rate is 4%, we have a GDP gap of 4%. That's due to Okune's Law. Just kind of makes sense. If you're not making money, you're not out spending it. So if we're doing both models of GDP, that doesn't work. Alright, a few places you're going to run into these are going to be long-run aggregate supply sits at full employment. This is on our aggregate supply and demand model. So full employment on long-run aggregate supply is our fictitious 100% not real model. Okay, so full employment, that means we have 100% and that's not completely real. But say we have a recession. This is short-run aggregate supply, aggregate demand, and where they cross puts us in short-run equilibrium. So right here we have price, and we have, this is how much GDP we are making. Right here, this is how much GDP we could be making. So we have what's called a recessionary gap. So if we're supposed to make 20 trillion right here and we're only making 19 trillion, we're short $1 trillion what we could be making if everyone had a job. So your job as an economist is, if it doesn't fix itself, to go ahead and get that to move with some kind of policy. Okay? So that's where we have that in employment. Now later on, you're going to be doing what's called the Phillips Curve. We have the long run Phillips Curve, and we have the short run Phillips Curve. And that exists at the natural rate of unemployment. So we'll have inflation, which matches price level. That's an L. Then we have unemployment, which matches GDP. Because if you're not at work, then you're going to be causing unemployment because you're not making anything. So remember, this is our frictional plus structural unemployment. So this is the natural rate. The Phillips curve we'll do later, and it's really kind of a mirror image. So we'll have a certain amount of inflation or price level at a certain rate of unemployment. And the short-run Phillips curve is the inverse relationship between inflation and unemployment. Alright, if there's anything else I left off, like population, this is our 16 plus, basically able to work. Alright, they're not in prison and not in the military. I don't know why they don't count, because they work and it's government spending. It's kind of tricky. Alright, labor force, remember they want a job. We did that rate. Full employment, we looked at both versions of full employment. Those are right here. Okay, another place we can see unemployment is on the business cycle. Okay, we can also see it on the PPC. Remember, point inside the curve shows unemployment, natural rate of unemployment, unemployment because of the recessionary gap, and I can't remember if there's more. But when I get back, I can answer any questions about unemployment. I hope that helps. You guys have a great day.